Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the Tool Belt, episode 205, and we have another great guest this evening. Stay tuned.
GC Backer, roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. GC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
GC Backer.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 205 of the Behind the Tool Belt. If you haven't liked, loved, subscribed, follow, go to your favorite listening, watching platforms and check us out, like us, love us, rate us, give us a review, hopefully a good review. Erico, how the hell are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. One of the things I love about this show the most is that it's live, raw, and uncut. And our conversations are always off the chain. And so Vic and I were having a little conversation about the rabbit holes and the out in the left field conversations that you and I have had and other people that are kind of in our position in life. And one of the topics that came up, and I'm just going to dive right into this, and hopefully, I know that I can never make you feel uncomfortable, and that's going back to like I love how this is, live, raw, and uncut. And when we were talking about recovery, right? What it was like, how we got here, and what it's like now. And any conversation that you and I have ever had, especially on a podcast, has kind of been like a on the surface kind of, never really got real deep down into it. But one of the things we were talking about is like that last day, right? Or that week leading up to that last day that we decided today's the day I'm done being a piece of shit. So I never heard that part of your story of like what led up to that. Like what was going on in your life? Who did you screw over? What kind of trouble with the law were you in? Like what, or did you not know that was your last drink? And because they say, if you don't remember your last drink, you're probably going to repeat it again.
That's fair. So mine's a little different. I've told this story before. Clearly you don't watch any of my content, so fuck you. But no,
but I have liked, love, and
yeah,
subscribed.
you have love, like, and subscribe. So thank you.
Yeah.
No, but so I've told this story before. I don't know if I remember. I don't know if I remember my last drink necessarily, but I remember the day.
Mhm.
I remember. So I got I got pulled over, right, for my fourth offense felony DUI. We all know that story, and I go to jail. And for most people, that would be the moment, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I knew I was facing some serious consequences. And for most people, it'd be like, man, I need to fucking clean up my act. And for me, it wasn't. It was like I got out and I went right back to it because I was so distraught. And I was like, oh my God, my life's over. Why would I stop fucking doing something that can mask all the feelings and the emotions that I was dealing with at that time? Right.
Mhm.
Um, and then I got forced. We all know if we have problems with the law and drinking and whatever, you have to go do an alcohol evaluation, right?
Mhm.
So I go do my fourth alcohol evaluation, right? In 10, 12, 15 years. And I go get this alcohol evaluation at a place called Valley Hope. And I meet a guy named Mark. He's a counselor there. And he tells me that I need to go to inpatient treatment. And my response was, no, no, no. I'm just trying to figure out what I need to do to like appease the judge. I was like, so can I do like an IOP or like, I'm like, I got a mortgage to fucking pay, man. I'm like, I got a job and I got a mortgage. And how often do you hear that from guys that need help and need recovery and need to go to treatment? They're like, oh, I got a job. I got a house. It's like, well, motherfucker, your job and your house ain't going to be there if you keep going down this fucking path. But
Mhm.
me, I'm that alcoholic, right? And I was like, no, I got shit to do. And so I blew him off and I was like, hey, like I'll figure this out, right? And so I went for another 3 months. Okay. I went hard for another 3 months partying. And I'll never forget, he gave me his business card. And in my living room, I had my couch and then an end table right next to it. And this is long enough ago that I had a phone, like a fucking phone sitting there, right?
Mhm.
Not my cell phone. And I remember my card, Mark's card was sitting there, and I would use Mark's card as a Coke funnel. So I would fold his card up, chop up the Coke, and then use that to pour into the baggies, right? I
Mhm.
saved his card to use as a Coke funnel. So I'm sitting on my couch one day, and I look over and I see his card sitting there. And I had this like moment kind of come over me, and I was like, fuck. And I picked it up. No joke. I remember. So actually, I do remember my last. I picked up the card because I couldn't even read his name because there was so much coke and residue on it.
Mhm.
So of course, what did I do? I licked it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to lick it off to clean it, so I could get a little gummy and so I could get a little nummy. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I cleaned it off and I looked at it and I called the number on the phone and I said, "I think I'm ready." And that was it. That was the moment. I knew that I didn't have any other I didn't have any other options, right? I either had to make a decision to go do something and I didn't know what that looked like, but it was either go do that or go to prison,
Mhm.
right? My two options were go to treatment, just see what happens, be willing to listen, right? Be willing to listen, to shut the fuck up and listen, right? Did I tell you I'm making shirts that say that, by the way?
No.
Um, I'm making Be Authentic shirts. We're going to start a store and it's going to have Be Authentic and it's going to have Shut the Fuck Up and Listen. Um, but I decided that I had to be willing to do something different. And I didn't know what that meant. And I
Mhm.
called them and I said, I'm ready. And 2 days later, they had a bed for me and I went to treatment. And so, I mean, that was my last, like lick of cocaine, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was the moment that I had to have. Like, I wasn't even ready when I was laying in
Yeah.
a jail cell with gout in my foot, and I was 310 pounds, and you know what I
Mhm.
mean, a piece of shit. I
Yeah.
wasn't even ready then. I wasn't
Yeah.
ready until I had to have that moment, and I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Like that moment, like what's going through your head and what led up to that, like where you have that decision where do you go to try to score more coke and keep that run going, right? Or where it's like you just decided where I'm tired, I'm broke, I'm done, ripping people off, I'm
I'm
tired of
tired
lying.
fighting.
Yeah, fighting like that
I'm
fight.
tired of fighting. Yep. I'm tired of fighting the fight, right? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Right. I
Of
mean,
myself.
I hate all the isms in recovery, but like every single one of them is true.
Mhm, mhm,
Right? And
mhm.
and there's not one that's more true than I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was just a miserable fuck. And
Right.
I didn't want to be a miserable fuck anymore, but I didn't know what that meant. Like I
Yeah.
had no idea. I had no
Right.
idea that this life was possible.
No, no doubt, no doubt. Which kind of leads into the next question, or at least one of them. So you're in rehab now. How long did you stay in rehab? Like 30 days?
30 days.
30 days, you completed it, you got out, and you had all these dreams and aspirations and stuff like that. So what was going through your mind the minute you stepped out of rehab? Like, what was your goal?
I relapsed 14 days later.
Okay. So you relapsed, you had another moment, right?
Yeah, so I got out of rehab and I came home and I still had a roommate because I had blown my small little retirement fund that I had to
Mm-hmm.
pay my mortgage so I wouldn't lose my house. And I had a roommate so I could afford my mortgage payment. And he was still using and he was
Mm-hmm.
still partying every night. And that was really bad, right? That was really hard. And I was doing okay. I was going to meetings. I was doing all right. And I had a buddy call me and say, "Hey, do you want to go have dinner?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need to get out in the world again and talk to people and whatever." I had gotten some news that day that upset me about an ex or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally used that as an excuse. And I went out. We went out and had dinner. And he said, "Hey, do you want to run down to our old stomping ground and say hi to everybody?" And we did. And we sat down. And within 30 minutes, I said, "Fuck it," and I ordered a vodka 7. Within an hour of that, I had cocaine delivered to the bar. And then by the end of the night, we had an all night party at my house that went till about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then that was the moment because then I woke up the next day at about noon. I
Mm-hmm.
woke up the next day and I'll never forget this, never, rest of my life. I walked up the stairs in my little Cracker Jack house, walked into the bathroom, and I looked right in the mirror and out loud, I said, "What the fuck did you do?"
Mm-hmm.
And I
How
was
did I
like,
do it
"You're,"
again?
I was like, "You're done." And that was it. And that was the last time I had a drink or a drug. Like, but for whatever reason, for me, I had to have that moment.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I had my old drug dealer came to my house and said, "Hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to do this shit? Or are you coming back out with us?" And I was like, "Give me a month." I said, "Give me a month to see how this goes for me and see if I like it." I go, "And if I hate it, I'll call you and I'll be right back out with you guys." And literally he looked at me and he was like, "Okay, cool, man. Okay, yeah, all right, I'll give you a month." And he did. And that was it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, most understanding drug dealer you ever met. Um, but that was literally how it went. And that was when I decided. I was like, "You obviously can't handle it." Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "You obviously are built different than other people, and you can't just have one.
Yeah.
It's just not how you're wired."
Right, right. And I remember, and I brought up this today with Vic, and I don't know if he heard that story or not, but my last moment, it was early in the morning. I was on another run, and I was supposed to be living in Waynesboro, taking care of, staying with my mom, and that was her first bout with ovarian cancer. So I had moved from York to Waynesboro to live with her. That was a freaking fiasco. Um, According to her, I was there and I was taking care of her, but that was her just co-signing my shit because she was my biggest co-signer, my biggest fan. But so I would run to York to work every day in this 1980 van. This is all I had left. 1980 van. It was white, no air conditioning, no heat, none of that stuff. And at that time I was trying to get my oldest son into rehab. So I had, damn it, I almost remembered the name of the rehab. I had a folder from them in my briefcase in between the two seats there. And I pulled the folder out. And mind you, this is probably like the sun's just coming up. So it's like 5:30 in the morning. And I found a phone number and I called that phone number and they answered the phone. Holy shit. I told him what's been going on. Hey, I need to get into treatment. Okay, we'll call you back. And it's about an hour drive from York to Waynesboro. And before I even got to my mom's, they called me back and they were like, "Hey, we'll be there around 10:30 to pick you up." I was like, "Oh, wow, that's quick." So yeah. So I called my mom up, and she lived above a bar. My family's owned a bar for 30 years. So she lives
Right.
above the bar. So I call her up. I'm like, "Mom, I'm coming home. I'm done. I just don't have any more juice in my legs. Can you go down in the bar and get me a 12-pack of Yingling Lager? And if you have any of those Xannies, break out the Xannies for me because I'm done. I'm coming and I need to come down." So she's like, "Okay." Because again, my mom, biggest co-signer, almost loved me to death. And I get there, I'm hammering Yinglings, I'm popping Xannies and stuff, and they give me a call. I get there, it's probably, I don't know, at this time it's probably like 8:30 in the morning, and it was my dad's birthday that day, and I'm trying to hide from him. I'm back in my mom's room hiding from him because he's there and he wants my help because he's always doing something. He's a busybody. Anyhow, they call me up and they're like, "Hey, we'll be there in an hour." I was like, "Holy shit." So they came and picked me up. I called my PO. Mind you, I was on parole at that time. So I called him up and was like, "Hey, I'm going to rehab." And he was like, "Okay, that's fine." I was like, "But I got court next week. I got some pending charges." He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it." So I go to rehab and I'm heading to the place that I went to the very first time. They had an adolescence um, side of it or department that I had went to when I was 13 years old. The very first time I went to rehab, I was 13. And so that was the first rehab that I've ever gone to. And it was the last one. And I remember saying to myself that I'm actually going to complete this rehab this time. So I did. I walked through that. I read the first 164 pages. I got like the client of the week award, man. Like I was just banging on all 8 cylinders up there. And fortunately, I didn't relapse this time when I got out, but that's kind of like that last moment for me. And I remember thinking to myself when I was laying in that bed in rehab that I know there's something better out there for me. I know that I'm a better person than this. And I am just so sick and tired of letting people down and not doing anything with my life and just creating all this chaos in my family's life, my mom's life, my dad's life, my sister, my brother-in-law, because they tried to 12-step me. And I was just creating all this chaos. But my question for you, Eric, when you were laying in that, I don't know, like that morning and you yelled at yourself in the mirror and you decided at that moment when you got like a week or two or a month or 3 months under your belt, what were your goals and aspirations? Like what were you going to do at that moment? Like positive in your life, because you get like that pink cloud that you're on. So if you ever experience the pink cloud, they call it the pink cloud. What was your momentum at that moment?
So honestly, like my first year was really tough. Um, I hid a lot from the world,
Hmm.
and I focused. All I did was focus on work and honestly, like and golf. And so like I would literally just go hit balls and and I would work. And I think I was trying to like regain the trust of my grandpa
Hmm.
because I had let him down so much work wise. Because
Hmm.
I mean, I'd be coked out of my mind at 6 o'clock in the morning and go pick up a dump trailer and fucking haul it, to the dump. Like, and
Hmm.
I couldn't even I was like one eye in it out the window, like, with 8 ton of fucking shingles in the back, right? Like taking it to a dump.
Hmm.
And I think that first year I was trying to learn. My goal was to learn how to how to be around people and not drink. I knew how to be around people and drink, but I had no idea how to be around people and not drink. And so I was blessed that I found a sponsor in my early sobriety. And they always say, like, find somebody who has what you want, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I found this guy who was younger. He was my age, maybe a couple years younger than me, but he had like 2 years of sobriety. But this guy still went out and he still like met people, right? I mean, I was 30 years old. I was divorced twice. I was single. like I wanted to be able to go out and socialize, but I didn't know how to do that because I was so scared and so full of fear
Mhm.
of like what's going to happen. And I wanted to be like him. Now, what I learned later was that I didn't actually want to be like him. Like I wanted to figure out who I was, but I wanted to learn how to socialize, right? I wanted to be able to date. I wanted to be able to do all this stuff that normal fucking people do. I had no higher aspirations than that, right?
Mhm.
After I put a year under my belt, then my mind started to unfog more, right? And then it was like, okay, now I want to focus on growing the business and like helping my grandfather financially and like all of these things that he had done for me for so long. Then it became about how do I become a better version of myself in work, right? Because that moment that you had where you're like, I know that there's something more for me,
Mhm.
but I don't know what that is. I had that when I was young, and I always knew that I wanted to do what my grandpa did. I always wanted to own the company. I wanted to own a roofing company. Like I wanted to do that, but I knew I didn't want to do it like him because he
Mhm.
worked really, really, really fucking hard, like physically for a really, 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 really long time, like into his 60s.
Mhm.
Right. And I was like, I really want to know how to own a business and not own a job. And so like I literally kind of went on a mission to figure out how to do that. Right. And I think ever since then, that's all I've been doing is trying to learn and absorb more because like we're just fucking, like we're nobodies, right? Like I didn't go to college. I mean, I did. I went to college for like 5 years, but like I didn't graduate, like I dropped out of fucking school. I did all those, like nobody'd hire me. Nobody fucking hire me. Um, so like what are you going to do? You got to fucking figure it out. And
Mhm.
I didn't know how to do that. So I think that my whole journey after that became how do I almost had a me against the world kind of thing of like I'll fucking show you to all
Mhm.
these people that doubted me. I knew that I was destined for more, but I didn't know what that meant. And I'm going to figure out what the fuck that is. Right?
Mhm.
Because I want one day I want a fucking billboard with my goddamn picture on it. And they're like, "Oh fuck, well, I didn't think that would happen."
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about that a little more, that journey there and your grandpa. I was kind of hoping you would bring that part of it because
Yeah.
that's the journey of what it was like, how you got here. And then of course we want to get into the part of like what it's like today, but that journey, that long journey, that vision that you just wanted to be a productive citizen of society, you wanted to be the best business owner that you could possibly be and not necessarily do it your grandfather's way. So, what did you do to become a good business owner, a good entrepreneur? Like what were you listening to podcasts? Were you watching YouTube? Did you go back to school? Did you get a mentor? Did you get a coach? Did you do all the above? What
None.
did you do?
I I fu- I I watched all the things that he did that I thought were wrong,
Hmm.
and I tried to do the opposite.
Okay.
And I always feel really guilty saying that because he taught me so much, right? But I really tried to take all of the negative things and the
Hmm.
lessons that he learned the hard way
Hmm.
and tried to figure out how to do the opposite of that. And
Hmm.
then I went to my first conference, right? I went to my first conference and was like exposed to all of this stuff,
Hmm.
right? And tried to figure out like, oh my God, there's like softwares and technologies, and like I didn't know what the fuck a CRM was, and like all of these little things. Because I was the old school guy that had everything in a folder in my side door of my truck, and you know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
had a printer, I had the mobile printer,
Hmm.
like sitting
Oh
in the
yeah.
back seat and fucking writing estimates and printing them out, and like I had all that stuff, and I was like, I knew that that wasn't the way, right? At the time, it seemed like the way, right? And but then I did start doing those other things later,
Hmm.
right? I started doing these other things later because, like, when I first started, kind of running the company on my own, like we didn't have anything. It was literally just me and my grandpa, right?
Hmm.
And I had squirreled away like 50 grand, right? I had squirreled away like 50 grand, and I went and bought a property that had an office and a couple of outbuildings. And so I leased the outbuildings to help
Hmm.
pay for the property.
Hmm.
And then I had this office building, like old piece of shit in the middle of Omaha. Like, I mean, not where you'd want to be, right? But I had this building. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do with this building? And I was like, I guess I need to put people in it. And so like I was like, okay, well, what can I hire? And so like I hired my first runner, and then I hired a guy to do production. And then I hovered over him for a year because I thought I was the only person in the world that actually knew how to do production, right? And I hovered over him for a year. And point, he still works for me today. Longest guy that's worked for me. But I started figuring out how to hire, right? And then I got to a point where it was like, okay, now I started looking for mentors a little bit, and started opening myself up to some type of coaching, because I had been raised in the mindset of figure it out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I have this mentality of like, well, I can figure that out. I don't need somebody to fucking tell me how to do something. And we didn't have YouTube or any of that bullshit back then, right? It was like, no, figure it out. He'd drop me on a job site and be like, do that. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? And he's like, I don't know, fucking figure it out. I'm like, okay. And it might take me longer, but I'd figure it out. So it's a good skill to have, right? Because I think that a lot of people in the younger generation have lost that skill of just you drop them off somewhere and say, figure it out. But at the same time, there's so many resources out there, whether it's coaching or masterminds or whatever it is, that if you don't put yourself in those positions and surround yourself around people, right? Just me and you hanging out and having conversations spurs things in your mind that you didn't think about. And you're like, oh shit,
Right.
Ty did that. I can fucking do that. You know what I mean? And like, then you start collaborating and you know what I mean? And like, you start surrounding yourself around these higher level people. That was when my life changed. When I started surrounding myself around people who had either done more or were on the same type of journey that I was on, because then you feed off of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was 100% like my turning point of like when my life changed, and when I got a full-time coach. That was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, and it's crazy because what you're talking about is what I think is called like success by proximity, right? Just by surrounding yourself around people that are either at a higher level or those that want to go to that level as well. Now, was there a moment where you felt like, because I heard you say, I'll figure it out. Was there a moment where your ego was maybe holding you back from surrounding yourself around people like that, because you thought maybe like, what do they know that I don't already know, or I can't figure out myself?
No, it was more of an ego thing of I don't belong in that room, and I felt inferior, and I still have that today. I still have that today where I'll go into a room and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in here? You know? And I have to like tamp that down and be like, no, nope, you fucking belong here. Like, it's okay. Like, there's people in this room that look up to you for whatever reason, right? Excuse me. I still deal with that today. And I know what's the term for that? Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I still have imposter syndrome 100% today. But it was more of that because I wouldn't want to ask questions and then show my ignorance to something. And I didn't want to be found out. That was my big fear, was being found out. Like, ask some stupid question that like, you don't know that. Right. I remember when I asked somebody what appraisal was for the first time. I didn't know what the fuck I didn't know what appraisal was. I had no idea what appraisal was. So I would sit in rooms and just listen to people talking about it so I could kind of figure out what it was, so I could go do a little research on my own. And I was like, oh yeah, appraisal. You got appraisers and an umpire. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, tell me more about how yours went. And then I just let them tell a story. And I was like, oh yeah, I had one like that too. I never fucking had one. I had no idea what the hell I was talking about ever. But I would learn by proximity.
Yeah.
But I was always afraid, but I was still always afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Right. And what I've learned as I've gotten older is like, fucking ask. Right. Like, and especially, here's what makes it easier: when you pay to ask. When you pay to ask, then you don't have to worry about ego, because the relationship is already built on, they have knowledge that you want and you're willing to trade them something for it. Right. I'm willing to trade you money to get your information that you have that I might not have, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so I've learned that type of transactional relationship is extremely healthy,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that we're groomed to say that transactional relationships are bad. They are bad in friendships,
Mhm.
right? But they're
Yeah.
not bad in learning and growth,
Of course.
right? And people need to be more open to those, right? Like, because I've had a hard time because I've given just free fucking help for
Oh, yeah.
however many years, right? And I've
Yeah.
had to draw a line in the sand a little bit and say, hey, look, guys, I've got 3 other businesses that I'm running as well. And so I'm putting a package together. And if you want some of my time, because like it's taking time away from my daughter, it's taking time away from my businesses that generate me revenue. Like I need a trade here. So I
Mhm.
need you to trade me some compensation for my time. Right.
Yeah.
And for the most part, people have been pretty respectful of that. And
Yeah.
so that was why I started my group to help people because I want to keep helping people, but
Mhm.
like not in AA stuff, right? Just
Yeah, yeah.
business stuff, right?
I know.
But
Yeah, I
like,
know.
but in business stuff, it's like we got to compensate for time. But they get to ask me those questions that they might feel stupid asking somebody else,
Mhm.
but they're paying me to answer the question,
Right. Right.
so you don't have to feel like a dumb shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's all I ever wanted.
So to circle back on a couple of things here, I read something a while ago, and I think it's Ryan Holiday book that I read every morning. He has like a 366 day
Okay.
daily, whatever the hell it is, daily affirmation book. I'm pretty sure I read this in there. And he talks about like creating most of it has to pertain to children, your children, your family, and stuff like that. But I also apply a lot of it to business and how I treat other people. And he talks about creating a why atmosphere. He actually calls it a why child. Like encourage your child to ask why. And I think with our generation, we were always told to shut the fuck up. You talk too much. So I think we were scarred at a young age, and I remember sitting in school thinking, I don't want to raise my hand because I'm going to be a burden or I'm going to look stupid. But then the older I got, I realized the person that's not raising their hand is the dumbest person sitting in the room.
Yeah.
Like I'm at the age now where it's kind of like I just don't have time to mess around and continue to be ignorant because that's what it was. I was holding myself back, whether I knew it or not, because I wasn't raising my hand. And the one thing, and I'm probably not perfect at this, but I try to be as approachable, especially here at work or anyone, that way they feel like they can come and ask me any question and or make an error and they're not going to get scolded for it, because two things, right? They don't know what they don't know, so they need the answers, right? And the second thing is too, people need to make mistakes in order to learn. So there's two learning
Yes.
things here. One, I need to be open, I need to be present, and I need to be available, or somebody needs to be available to answer questions, right? The other thing is too is to allow room for error. Like you have to allow room for error, because with all of the errors and mistakes that I've made, that I consider that experience, right? Through those trials, tribulations, the things that I've put myself through in the past, and that's a whole nother topic. But all of these things that I've gone through, I've realized that this is experience. I've had more failures, and we talk about this all the time, than I have successes. But most of that, you want to know what sucks? Most of that's because I was afraid to raise my hand. So I had to go through all that stuff. So what I'm hearing you say is you want to help people not have to pay the dumb taxes that you've paid, right? But also what I want to touch on too is the experiences that I've experienced and the pain and things that I've put myself through in the past. I feel like have allowed me to also put myself in uncomfortable positions today, like you were talking about, like that imposter syndrome and stuff like that, because I've gotten comfortable with, and we talk about this as it's starting to become a catchphrase here lately, is becoming uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay. So I always think to myself today, and this is where I think we're those of us that have had the past that we have an unfair advantage, because I can put myself more likely today into an uncomfortable position, because there is nothing that's as uncomfortable as that drive down Route 15, calling my mom, telling her to get me two 6 packs of Yingling Lager and calling a rehab. Like that's really uncomfortable stuff. So what could be any worse than that today? especially going into a room of people that have gone places where I want to go today.
Yeah, 100%. I think the only caveat to that, because I've thought of that, and I agree with you, because like, what can you do to me that I
Yeah,
haven't already done to myself, right?
right.
My caveat to that is I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and that's where my risk adversity sometimes goes a little lower
Mm,
because I think, wait, it isn't just me,
anymore.
right? And I put myself in that weird. So like then there's that. Then it comes back to that balance again, right?
Hmm.
Because if it's just me, fuck, I don't care. If I lost everything, I could sleep on a fucking piss filled couch like I did for 20 years,
Hmm.
like in some shithole little shit box. But I can't let my daughter,
Yeah.
right? So like as we get older and responsibilities change too,
Hmm.
I think that changes our mindset a little bit on that, if that makes sense.
Hundred
And
percent.
that isn't to say that to disagree with you.
No,
It's
no.
just you know what I mean?
100%. The difference today is that your thinking isn't as selfish either.
Right.
You have other people and you have other obligations, but your thinking is much healthier today to make better decisions, especially when
Right.
it comes to that form of gambling. I call that, sometimes we
Yeah.
gamble in business, right? But your educated guessing is more brilliant than it was
Yeah. Yeah. Way
14, 15.
way more significant. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're definitely more likely to not crap out. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Okay, so you're working your way, you're up through the ranks on your grandfather's business. You're gaining his trust back. Let's touch on that a little bit more. Like, how long did that take before he was like, okay, I trust you again? Like, was that 6 months? Was that 12 months? Was that 3 years?
Not terribly long. He came to me pretty shortly thereafter, maybe 6 months later, and told me like you were a year away from me having to let you go. And
Mm,
I was like, let me go. I'm like, fuck you gonna do if you let me go, right? Because I was very arrogant, and I
mhm,
was like,
mhm.
what do you go? I'm like, I'm the only fucking guy that does anything around here. But like it got to that point, and that was when I that was definitely when I made that decision that I needed to keep moving forward,
Mhm,
right? If that makes sense.
mhm.
Tell me the original question again.
Um, I guess that like that how long did it take before I guess your grandfather started to trust you before he started to
Yeah,
turn the reins over to you?
yeah, it wasn't that much longer. Like it was less than a year to where he started giving me more responsibility and more responsibility. I think he knew and he believed in me enough. He was my biggest cheerleader, right? He
Mhm,
was my best friend. He was the one person in the world that I could tell anything to, that I could go to with any problem or any relationship thing I was going through, or whatever it was. Like, and we would fight like fucking cats and dogs. Like, I mean, we would motherfuck each other one day, and then the next day, literally like give each other a hug and say, I love you. Right. Like
mhm,
that was our relationship.
mhm,
And I've never had a relationship like that since.
mhm.
And I think that's the one thing, like, there's nothing I miss more than than that. And like that's the biggest thing that I miss of him. I mean, I'm 44 years old, and when I go back to Omaha, I still like go stop at the cemetery, and like I just stand there for like 10 minutes
Mhm.
and I cry,
Yeah.
right? I literally still stand there and fucking cry, um because I miss that relationship. And so like my challenge to everybody is like, if you have that, do not fucking take it for granted, right?
Mhm.
Because there'll be a day where whoever that person is for you will fucking be gone. Or you keep fucking up long enough and they'll be gone,
Yeah.
right? And you won't be able to make the amends. You won't be able to say I'm sorry for real. You won't
Mhm,
be able to do the things that you need to do to show them that you changed. And my grandpa, he got to see me change. He got to see me to start becoming the person that I was supposed to be. I got sober in beginning of 2010, and he passed away in 2015. So like he got to see 5.5 years of me being clean. He got to see Tegan born, right? So he saw that I was really starting a family, and like that I was going to be a dad and all that stuff. And that I think that was what he wanted to see, and I think
mhm.
that's why he was able to let go when he was so sick at the end was because I think that's what he was holding on for, right? But he trusted me implicitly. Like, we never had a deal on paper with the business. I literally just looked at him and I said, and the business wasn't worth anything. So don't get me wrong. Like, the business was worth nothing, right? There was no assets, fucking no customer list. It was just me going out and selling, right?
Yep.
And before he passed away, I was like, look, I'm going to take the business, I'm going to grow it. And I said, and I will take care of grandma. And that was our deal, that I made sure that she stayed in the house, had all of her bills paid. And that's what we do. We pay all of her bills. We pay her mortgage. Like, we make sure that she's okay for as long as she's alive. And he trusted me enough that, like, that was it. It was literally a hug and a handshake. And if I said that I was going to do something, I was going to do something. 5 years before that, that's not what it meant, right? If I said I was going to do something, I did not do it, right? Like, I didn't. But today, if I say I'm going to do something, I fucking do it. And he saw that. He saw that in me pretty quickly. I think he saw that mental shift.
Yeah, no doubt. They do. They feel it for sure. So let's talk about the growth of the business a little bit, and then start going down the path of what it's like today.
Yeah.
So when you said to your grandpa, I'm going to grow this thing, what was your plan at that moment?
At that time, it was just, I wanted to learn how to, we had just started dabbling into, so we're like a weird company, right? I started doing commercial as a kid, right? That was all he did. We had a truck and a kettle, and we sold flat tar and gravel roofs, right? When I don't remember how old I was, but like early 2000s, we had a couple of hailstorms in our area, and I started selling residential roofs, and was like, oh wait, I can sell these, and then we can have a crew do them, and I don't have to fucking put the roof on. And like, but I didn't know that business model. And so I started growing that business model, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I was like, I want to be able to grow a business where I have people selling and I have crews putting on the roofs, and like, this is how you really run a business, right? I still didn't know what that meant, right? I didn't know how to get the right insurance. I didn't know, what I mean, what an audit looked like. I didn't know, any of that stuff. But I knew that was kind of what I wanted to do. And I did that for 5, 6, 7 years. And I grew the business a little bit, but while he was alive, he refused to let us bring in outside people that weren't family. So I couldn't really go hire sales guys or anything, right? So literally, he had to pass away before I was able to really start growing the business and start hiring people. And then about 5 years after that is when I really realized how much I fucking hate dealing with homeowners. And so that was when I decided that I want to get back into commercial, because I really like dealing with business owners, people that understand ROI and understand like math and business decisions, and not like, oh, that isn't going to look pretty, or like, you scuffed my fucking gutter apron. Oh my God, who gives a shit, right? Like, so I enjoyed having the more high level conversations. And so that was when I started transferring the business kind of into two divisions, where like I have one team that's focusing on residential because we need to do it, and then another team that kind of focuses on commercial. And so that was when I really started growing the company and like opening up in different locations. So we were in Omaha for years. We started an office in Des Moines. We had that for 3 or 4 years and did okay. Decided to close that down, but we still sell commercial out there. And then, made the move to Texas and opened up down here. And, then this year I'm making another move, right? I'm always changing stuff, especially in the winter. So we're doing another move where we are going to work with all of these partners that I have. Like, I've got a huge network of partners of like public adjusters and first party litigation attorneys and stuff like that. I've got guys on my team that know more about commercial roofing than any of these guys. So we're going to make sure that we're licensed in 6 or 8 states so that we can go travel and go sell commercial with our partners and help them out find solutions, because we know how to do that. So that's our new pivot. So my word for the year is pivot, right? It's always pivot and figure out, like, if this isn't working, right? If this isn't working, and that doesn't mean like you go knock doors for a week and the neighborhoods burn out, right? It's like, if we did this for 6 months or 8 months and like this isn't working the way that we built it, we need to pivot, right? What are we doing to pivot so that we can continue to operate a business, right? So that's what we're doing. So I'm always pivoting. I'm always pivoting, right? I'm trying to turn my business, like I was going to pick your brain. You saw the message I sent out in the Revolt chat, and I forgot to put the fucking call together. But I want to turn my business into a 75% retail company, right?
Okay.
I've been 80% storm res for the last 15 years, right? I know how to sell retail, but I don't know how to teach it very well, right? Because I can sell, I can talk to you, I can make a relationship, and I can show you why you need something, and I can get you to do it, generally speaking, right? If you need it, right? But really building a retail model, it's not really what we do, because I live in kind of storm areas where people think that they don't have to pay for stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm going to rebuild that, right? But I'm still the guy that says, well, I can figure it out. I don't need to call Ty.
Yeah.
Right. And even though I know you run a super fucking successful retail fucking company, right?
Yeah.
And I have no idea. You called me one day and asked me about storm stuff. I don't know. Was that hard to call me?
No, not at all.
Right. But it was still hard for me to reach out. Like, it's such a fucking ego thing. It's such a fucking ego thing, because it's hard for me to pick up a phone and ask for help at all. The fact that I'm sober today, dude, and that I asked somebody to fucking help me is absolutely ridiculous. It's insane that that actually happened, because I don't ask for help ever. But every time that I do, good shit happens.
Every time.
So like you would think that I would correlate the two fucking things of like when I ask for help, good things happen, right? But what don't I like doing? Asking for help. And it's like, well, hey, dumb shit, when you ask for help, good things happen. So why don't you do it more often? I don't know, because I'm got an ego this goddamn big, I guess. Ugh.
You need to learn how to pivot your mind shift into
fuck. I just, when I start talking about it though, like it frustrates the shit out of me, because like I know what I'm supposed to do. And I know that people that are watching sit there and they're like, they know what the fuck to do, and they still choose not to do it for whatever reason it is. And it could, and a lot of times it's ego.
Fear.
For me, it's always fucking ego and fear.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You know, and like I said, I guess you get to a point where it's, you know, me, I'm an instant gratification kind of person. So I think that's why I called you up. I asked you a couple questions about, I think it was your CRM and storm stuff twice. I called you a few times. About things. And it's like, because I need to know, we need to know these things. And I know you're not going to make fun of me. Then most people, this is the thing, they enjoy sharing their knowledge with people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So if you would ever call me, it's like, oh man, I would nerd out on it with you for a minute. You know what I mean? And more than happy to share my experience, strength, and hope with you. And that's something that I think I struggle with too. I think we all go through that, but it's like, at what point in time is the pain great enough before I actually, because I don't have 6 or 8 or 9 months to like figure this out on my own, you know? And it's like, if I just pick the phone up and I call Eric, he's gonna give me the answers that I need right now. And I take what I need and I leave the rest, because just kind of like we do, it's like, you know, we're visionaries. You told me one way, I'm going to probably use half of that, but I'm going to elaborate more on it, and I'm going to build on top of that, because if you're doing it, I know I can do it, and we're going to do it better, because, or throw our spin on it and put our fingerprints on that, on whatever that the case might be. But that's a great, that's another great topic right there. Like reaching out for help. But okay, so let's get back on track here a little bit. So
sorry.
No, that's okay. Your grandfather passes away.
What we do.
Passes away. You told him, you know what? I'm going to grow the business. I'm going to blow this thing up. I'm going to take care of grandma, you know, until the day comes that she doesn't need to be taken care of anymore. And okay, so we're here today. So today, I hear you talking about you're going to pivot to a different direction, go to a retail model. You're hooked up with a bunch of attorneys. You're going to start getting licensed in 6 or 7 states doing commercial work. Okay. So, and then you're also developing a cult-like culture. What are you doing? A mastermind, a call? Tell us a little bit about.
That's a good question. So I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I I had this vision about a year ago that I really wanted to do this underwater mastermind group for
Mm.
people that love to be in the water and love to scuba dive like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what that looked like. So that was my first idea, right? And then I realized I had done this, I had come up with this concept of the team method, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of how to create a cult like following inside of your company by utilizing the team method, by instilling trust, empathy, authenticity, and meaning into your people. And I didn't realize that that was like how I taught and how I led. And when I realized that I did, and again, I didn't have any of these revelations before my coach, right? My coach taught me that this is what I did. So I started doing, these keynotes and speaking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got all this amazing feedback. And I had people were like, man, I took fucking notes and I started implementing this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, what else do I do with that? Because you can only go on so many stages and tell the same speech so many
Mm-hmm.
times, right? Or change it a little bit and get on another stage. And I was like, I want to be on I want to be able to help more people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to start this cult culture movement for people that are of the same mindset, that the people in their company are the most important thing in the company. It's not the client, it's the people, because the people are the one that are touching the client. And if we build this certain culture inside of our company of trust, empathy, authenticity, and meaning, and we build these things inside of our company, all the other stuff is going to take care of itself. So I built out a group and we started selling memberships for it. And so we do group calls twice a month. Starting in January, we're going to have 2 other calls a month that are going to be Ask Me Anything calls.
Mm-hmm.
So on the 2 group calls, I literally run a fucking AA meeting, Ty, and
Mm-hmm.
I bring a topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about it for like 40 minutes. And I told everybody, I'm like, guys, I'm going to run this like a fucking AA meeting because that's how I know how to run calls.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring a topic and I talk about it, about culture, whatever it is. And then we go around the room, see how we can help everybody. And then for the guys that really want to dig in, because there's guys that like, you can only get so much in a group setting. And then for the guys that want to dig in, I'm going to offer private coaching for those guys. So I've got a few guys that have already signed up for that. And some of them want to talk roofing. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. I know a lot about roofing, right? Some of them just want to talk about culture. Some of them want to talk about personal shit, whatever it is. But I'm spending that time. And then if you're already in that group, you get first right of refusal to go on our trip. So our first trip is going to be in April, and we're going to Grand Cayman. And I put my dream together of putting together a group of men to stay in a fucking 11-bedroom mansion on the ocean. And my brother-in-law lives there. We've got a boat chartered for 3 days where it's just us. And we're going to go out on the boat, dive. We're going to do some trust exercises. And we're just going to be with each other. It's not going to be fucking days of content and speakers and all that kind of shit. It's going to be us sitting out on a veranda, connecting and getting to know each other better and smoking cigars. And I'm going to have a private chef there and eating amazing food, and then get up in the morning and go dive and go, do whatever it is that we're going to do to like have the experience. Because how do we bond? We bond through experiences or trauma or exercising or exercises or whatever it is. And I want to facilitate that because I had other people facilitate it for me, and it changed my life. But there was always moments where I was like, man, if this was mine, I'd do that. Right. Or, and not saying like what they were doing was wrong or not good. It was just, man, I'd love to put my spin on this. Right. So that's what I'm trying to build right now, and put that group together to facilitate that and just have a small group, right? I don't want it to be more than 12, 15 dudes, because I want it to be super intimate so that we all get to connect and really feel like we're doing that growth together.
Man, I love that. That's good stuff. And no one's doing anything like that either. And I know who you are. And I know you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it for the impact, because I heard you say it like, how can I reach more people? How can I get my message out there? And not to keep kicking this dead horse, but do you think your grandfather inspired something like that in you? Because I was thinking earlier when you were talking, like that connection that you had with your grandfather, and like that love that you guys showed for each other. Do you think a lot of that, or some of this, that what you're trying to do today, was that one of the lessons that maybe you learned and didn't realize that you learned it to motivate you to want to be this person?
I think that I've been searching for that for so long, and I never felt like I belonged in any group, right? So
Hmm.
like I love the group that we're in, right? I love Revolt. I
Hmm.
loved the circle that I was in with Sam Taggart, right?
Hmm.
Um, I still never felt like I still never felt a part of. I've my whole life I've always felt like an outsider
Hmm.
in every group that I'm ever in, right? And I don't know if it's because I rub people wrong or what it is exactly, but like I've always felt like an outsider, and I never felt like that with my grandpa because I felt like him and I were always it was us against fucking everybody,
Hmm.
right? And so the only time I've ever really felt part of is when I made something of my own, right? It was why we started Roofers in Recovery.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I want to start something that I can hopefully give the people that are in the group that feeling of belonging
Hmm.
that I yearn for so much. And if I can give them that, then I fucking won,
Hmm.
right? Then I fucking won. Because, like you said, I ain't doing it for the fucking money, right? Like the money
Hmm.
I fucking charge barely covers my fucking time,
Right.
right? I am not getting fucking rich doing this.
Hmm.
But there has to be a trade because people don't show up and don't participate, right? If you don't have some kind of investment,
Of
right?
course.
They just don't. So that's why, and like I'm not going to stop being in my other groups. Like I love it. Like I get so much out of it.
Hmm.
Um, it's just I want something of mine that's a little bit different, right? And I don't know. And I want to do the stuff that I love, right? I love fucking scuba diving. Love
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? You know what else I love doing? Shooting fucking pigs out of a helicopter. Fucking love that, right? That's what we're
Hmm.
gonna hopefully do in the fall, right?
Hmm.
Everybody that joins, we're gonna go fucking shoot pigs with an AR out of a helicopter, right? We
Hmm.
go shoot them at night with night scopes and shit, right? Like
Hmm.
that's awesome. And so we're going to do shit I like to do. You know what we're not going to do? We're not going to go rent Lamborghinis and fucking drive around town. You know why? Because I don't fucking like to do that. So
Hmm.
we're not going to do it, right? So the people that align with the
Hmm.
things that I like to do, that's who's going to be attracted to it. It's not for everybody,
Yeah.
right? I'm not trying to get everybody. I'm not trying to get 500 fucking people in it. I'm trying to build a little community of like-minded people
Hmm.
that like some of them are going to be sober, some of them aren't, right? Like it is what it is. I'm not going to allow fucking drunks in, that are a pain in the ass, but like I don't care about any of that. I just want you to
Yeah.
be. I
Yeah.
want you to be and to be there so that we can grow together and we can have a connection, and maybe it can be a semblance of what I had. I think that's a really good insight that you had because I never really thought about it like that before.
Hmm.
And I think that you're right, though. I think it was inspired from that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was taught, but it was inspired from that.
Hmm. Hmm. For sure. For sure. And I see where you're going with it, because you want to create that comfortable atmosphere. And I know I heard you say like it's because of the shit that I want to do. And that's not necessarily true either. I mean, yes, I'm sure it's inspired by the cool things that you want to do, but you also want to create that comfortable
Yes.
atmosphere where people aren't afraid to ask questions and are willing to go down those deep dark secrets of like, and have that atmosphere of like, I can go here and ask Eric or any of the other guys that are in this group with me, what I think is a stupid question. Because I think, like you said, I think with us growing up, I think we were told to shut up so much. you
Yeah.
know we're afraid to ask. Why? Because we're afraid people are going to think that we're stupid because we're asking questions. And it's like, there's not enough of that, like groups. Yes, Revolt has been life changing for me to be around those group that
Yep.
that group of people. And yes, I feel like I've had impact on that. But to have something like you said that's yours, and you're doing things like when you go to things like that, you're like, if this was my thing, I would have did it a little bit differently. Hindsight's always 2020. But what's cool about it is, Eric, is that you've put yourself in a position today, right, to not just make yourself successful, but your family and those that work for you. Like you said, that guy's been with you for over 15 years, right? Like, you've impacted so many people's lives, and this is what's crazy, so many people's lives that you don't even know. And what's crazy is there's people being impacted that have no idea where that impact came from. And that's
Mhm.
kind of like the catch 22 of legacy, right? Even if someone did come to work for you and they were there for 3 years, they're a different human being. And I think about this weird shit, right? If they came to work for us, they came as one individual, but they came through our program, our organization, and they left. But when they left as a different person, right?
Mhm.
And they went out and did whatever it was, either went to go work for somebody else, or they were inspired to go and start their own thing. And this is what's crazy. They're never going to give you the credit, or the organization the credit, of the things that they learned and how as a human being they changed. All I can hope for is that they go out, they make $100 million, and they impact just as many people, or if not more, than what we're trying to impact today. And we don't need the credit. I don't need to take the credit for that. But what's crazy is the people that they're going to impact have no idea where that impact originated from.
Yep.
I just had that thought probably a month ago. I'm sitting here thinking about it. I was probably going through something. I was like, that's the catch 22 of legacy. Like, legacies aren't always identified, right?
Right.
Like, if I died today and there's people in Uganda that are probably being impacted by us visiting Uganda a month ago, right? That don't even know where that impact came from. And
Hundred percent.
I have to be humble enough to continue to keep impacting people and know that they're not even going to know that we're impacting them.
Correct. Yeah.
But
And that's hard.
it is. It is.
That can be hard unless you have to become okay with that.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm totally down with it. And I know you are too. That's why we
Yeah.
gravitated towards each other. The first moment I feel like we met each other, it was kind of like, man, this is a cool dude. And I'm pretty sure you felt the same way. But pick up the phone more often, dude, and call me. Okay? Can you do
Oh, I'm
that?
the fucking worst. I'm
I
the
think you were
absolute
supposed to
fucking
call
worst.
me every single day. I think that lasted maybe 2 days. Or was that
Oh,
once a
fuck,
week?
mate.
It might have lasted a
God,
week.
oh, no. Didn't even last a week. No
No.
chance.
Yeah.
No. No.
But
I'm the worst.
you should stay in touch more often. One, so I can answer
I
those
agree.
stupid questions that you might
It's
have.
fair.
Okay. Two, just to stay in touch with each other,
Yeah,
because I might need you more than you needed me at that moment.
I know.
But what a great episode. A lot of people in here watching, a lot of good people. Hopefully everybody got something out of this. It was a little different tonight, I think, of an episode, but it always is when Eric's on the show. And that's what's cool about live, raw, and uncut. We did not discuss this, rehearse this, or I did not give him a list of questions that I'm going to be asking him. He didn't give me a list of questions that I should be.
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck we were going to get into tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that's what's cool
I was
about this
excited
show.
to find out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love these conversations. That's why I have never, the minute that you texted me, it was always yes.
Hmm.
Right? I
Hmm.
say no a lot, right?
Hmm.
I say no a lot to people now. I've learned to say no,
Hmm.
and that is never something that I think either you or I, right? Because of what you said, because we know what each other cares about,
Hmm.
right? Like we know that like our intention is to impact others and is to make a difference in the world, and to do something different. And it's not just about the car. It's not just about the attention, right? If I
Hmm.
can fucking leave one fucking thing here, sorry, I'm gonna go on
Hmm.
a rant, but like if there's one thing that it drives me crazy, and I wish that people would really hear what we're saying, right? Is that when you do things for genuine purposes to genuinely impact and to genuinely help people, and you're not doing shit just to get attention or just to get engagement or just to get fucking comments or fucking whatever it is, right? Like people can see through that shit, right? Figure out what you're fucking passionate about. We're all passionate about something, right? If the only thing you're passionate about is engagement and likes, fuck off, right? Figure out what you're passionate about and then be passionate about that so that you can impact and you can help all these other people that might also be passionate about that. I don't care if it's about fucking dogs, right? Like if it's, I love dogs, cool. Then be passionate about that, right? So that all these people that love the same thing as you do, you can group together and impact more people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stop worrying so fucking much about what type of engagement you're getting. And the people that drive me crazy, you see it on the stories and they'll put a picture of fucking two tits hanging out of a shirt just so you can get to their second story that is whatever they're selling
Mm-hmm.
to that guy, whoever that guy is,
Mm-hmm.
asshole. But like, figure, you probably know who it is too, don't you?
I think so.
Yeah. Fucking hate that guy.
But you still got to click and look. It works.
Yeah, it did, but it makes me angry every fucking time. Every time, it's like, are those really tits? No, not tits. Fuck.
No, yeah.
But I wish people would hear what you're saying. I wish people would hear what you're saying, of like, be passionate about something and get that out into the world, because then you're going to really be doing something. And I'm not perfect at it. I'm not great, right? I got to look in the mirror every day and be like, hey, why are you doing this? Right? Are you doing this because you want to help people or because you want people to pay attention to you?
Yeah.
Like, check your fucking ego at the door for a minute, because you'll go down a path where you get a lot of people yesing you to death and like, that was amazing and that was great. And all of a sudden that fucking ego starts getting real big again, right? And you got to tamp down a little bit once in a while. So anyway, I'm sure that'll piss some people off. So if I didn't do your show and I didn't piss somebody off, it was probably going to be, like, that was going to be a disappointment to a lot of people. So
for sure,
I figured I'd end it that way for you. So you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone for hanging around and listening to us jibber jabber about the stuff that we love and that we're passionate about. And you're absolutely right. It's like, you got to make sure your motives are right. It's about the impact. And that's kind of how I that's what makes me not nervous to get on a stage or get it in front of a group of people is, it's not, none of this is about me. It's what can Vic get out of this? What can anyone out here listening? Maybe there was somebody struggling and they're like, man, if those knuckleheads can do it, we can do it too, kind of thing. And that's the whole point of doing the podcast or any kind of engagements, speaking engagements or whatever, or even the positive post that I post. It's not about the likes, the comments, the loves, and and the shares and all that stuff. It's really about, like, we're human, we go through shit too. But I'm here. If you need me, I'm here. I'll always be here. And my intentions, Jana's a good one to help keep my ego in check, to make sure, are my intentions to do this, this topic, that speaking engagement or whatever. But when we were at RoofCon, I would be lying to you if I told you I wasn't nervous about my breakout or even being up on the main stage for the 8-figure CEO. But I tell you what happened to me was I was sneaking upstairs to go to the bathroom because I'm a weirdo like that. And when I came out of the bathroom,
did you have to take a shit?
I had to take a shit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Then I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
So instead of running across over to the hotel, I found a nice little private bathroom upstairs. So anyhow, I saw these. I came out of the bathroom and I saw these two kids, and they had their I don't know if it was a Revolt notebook or whatever notebook that they had, and they were both like reviewing each other's notes, man. And I was like, that is why we're here. This is why we're here, because of those two kids that I don't know if they're brand new entrepreneurs or if they work for a company, but that's why we were there. We were called to be there to spread our experience, strength, and hope, and our knowledge, and like get the message out there and improve the industry, because that's where it's at. I mean, I feel like we're making a change. We're making a difference from that old school mentality of any kind of trade. Like, we're trying to make it a better and make it into a career and take care of families and change lives is what we're doing. And this really has just become like the vehicle for us to be able to do what it is that we're so passionate about, because of an experience that we had with a loved one from previous life. You know what I mean? Because like that's why I asked you that question earlier, not to go off on a tangent here, but my mom, when she passed, there were some big shoes there to fill. Instead of me boohooing and falling into a dark place, I picked that torch up, man, and I ran with it tenfold. You know what I mean? It was like, we're going to do this, this, and this. She was involved. She devoted half of her life to charitable events and just doing all kinds of incredible things. And it's like, you know, like, and she drug us kids everywhere with her. Santa's Breakfast, the Exchange Club, the Red Hat Ladies, the Scarlet Ladies, the Chamber of Commerce, like all of these events that she organized at her own expense just to make an impact on the local community. And it's like, dude, what we do is just a drop in a bucket compared to those that came before us that showed us the way that like none of this is about any of us. It's about everyone else. We were here and put on this earth to serve. Bottom line, end the discussion.
You know, I had that same moment at RoofCon, by the way, when I knew why I was there, right? I wasn't there to film podcasts. I wasn't there to fucking meet somebody. I wasn't there to, you know, network or whatever it was. I don't know if you heard about this, but when I did my breakout, we did a little exercise and I made them turn off all the cameras and all the mics so that nobody would feel uncomfortable sharing. And we made everybody in the room share and be vulnerable. And at the end of it, there was a woman that stood up and literally shared about how she was abused as a child.
Mm.
And I don't know if that's something that she normally talks about, but like she started crying and literally told the story to a room of, I don't know how many people fit in those rooms, 150 people, maybe 200 people. And it was full, like it was back to the wall standing room. And she shared that story with everybody in that room because we were connecting. Right. And I walked out of that. And I was like, I remember I walked right past Hunter when I walked out and I said, hey man, that's why I was supposed to be here. Just so you know, that moment right there is why I was supposed to be here today. Like that made the whole trip worth it right there because that happened. So, and that, to your point, is what I want to facilitate more of with us, with our friends, with our groups, with everything, right? I want to be able to facilitate more of that because that's how we get to connect as humans, right? That's why we're here. We're not here to just live, work, and die. We're here to figure out how to connect with these other humans. And so I will commit to doing better at calling you. And you will fucking do the same thing because you're not any fucking better.
I know.
So
thank you for bringing both points up. Yeah.
But I'm going to do better at that because I care about it, right? I care about our relationship. And people out there should do the same thing. They've got people that they care about that they don't make the effort. And like we need to continuously make that effort for the people that we care about and they care about us.
For sure. I'm glad you brought that up because I meant to ask you about your breakout because I heard everybody was talking about that, the yarn that you had to connect everybody. It was deep stuff. And I sadly regret missing it. I don't know what our breakouts may have been at the same time. I don't know, but somehow I missed it. But anyhow, I'm sure at some point in time, I'll get to see it. Hopefully I get to see it. But if not, I know.
Well, maybe, or you could come to Cayman because we're going to do the same type of thing there.
We might. I might. You never know.
Okay. There's no we. This is a men's only thing. Jana's got to stay home.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's watching. So
okay. Sorry, Jana. I'd love to have you, but no women on this one.
No women. No. Good stuff. Another great episode, Eric. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We're going to stay in touch. That's a promise we're going to make to each other. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Like, love, subscribe to our other platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Google, Apple, all that good shit. Check us out on the replay because this was a banger that you should probably listen on the way to work tomorrow morning and at lunchtime and on your way home from work. So anyhow, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in every week. And we'll catch you next week for episode 206. Have a good night.